Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We continue on our study of bearing fruit. We are on Lent 4 today. Today is February 13th, 2016. And we continue with Colossians chapter 1. And we are reading today verses 7 through 8, which says this: This you learned from Epaphras, our beloved fellow servant. He is a faithful minister of Christ on your behalf, and he has made known to us your love in the Spirit. So first, I think it's important to point out who Epaphras was. He was, of course, a fellow servant or fellow laborer of Paul, and he was a faithful minister to Paul, and he was kind of tasked um, to be a representative for Colossia, which of course Paul had founded, and in Paul's absence while he was in prison, Epaphras was part of one of the many messengers that was used to deliver the message from Paul to the people. His prayers and him as a person, he was considered to be very stable. He had a mature faith, um, and he would report things back to Paul, how things were going at Colossia. So Paul definitely had an affection for him and respected him, but there was a mutual respect between the two of them. So you will see here that Epaphras has informed Paul of what was going on in Colossia. And so this is, he refers to Epaphras as a beloved fellow servant. Um, he is a faithful minister of Christ on your behalf, is what Paul calls him. So I thought about that phrase, being a faithful minister. And I know when we think about the word minister, we think of obviously those who are ordained. But it goes without saying that we are all called to be ministers of the word. We are all called to be ministers of the faith. That is, someone who will share the good news of Christ with others. That is what a minister does. One of the many things that a minister does. We are called to love one another. Well, I certainly try to live out that identity part of my call here at Emmanuel. And we are called to make disciples. Well, that's certainly another part of my call that I try to live out as well. So when you think about it, though, there isn't anything that I really do as a minister. Now, I do want to preface this by saying that, yeah, there are some differences, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is that the only thing that really separates me as a minister from you as a parishioner or a person who is not ordained is that I have, a seminary education and kind of gone through the process of learning a little bit more about faith than maybe the average person. But that doesn't mean that someone else is not capable of being a minister, a faithful minister for God. As you know, there are many other denominations, and even in our community here at Pflugerville, who do not practice the idea that a minister has to attend a seminary or receive theological training. While I don't always support their ideas, and sometimes their theology may be a bit skewed, there are people who just feel like they are called to ministry, that they are called to share that good news. And we have, I've encountered people in this community that way, and that doesn't necessarily make them people to be misunderstood or people that are not ministers of the faith per se, but they believe to be a minister in their own way. And is it different than mine? Sure. My ministry is different because I carry that I'm a representative of the National Church of the ELCA. So my ministry, my understanding of my title of minister may be different than yours, but there's the same idea of being a disciple, being loving, and sharing the good news, and all of those things of being a disciple of Christ can certainly be applied to someone else who is not ordained. So that's what I'm just trying to get at there. So the other part of this text is that I think is important is, Epaphras has what Paul says is that he has made known to us your love in the Spirit, making known the love of God. And I was wondering what you think that means. What does it mean to make known the love of God? Well, I think we have to first start by loving ourselves and loving our neighbor as ourselves. Now, when I say loving yourself, I don't mean in the sense of, oh, let me go out and purchase an expensive gift for myself because I love myself, or going out and buying the sundae that maybe you don't need because you love yourself. It's more in a deeper sense of understanding your worth and honoring your worth, your self-worth. Because I believe when you can only love other people when you love yourself first. And sometimes that's a challenge for people. It certainly was for me for a very long time. But if you can't look in the mirror and say to yourself, I love you, to yourself, then it will be a challenge for you to share that love with other people. Or if that's not the case, it may come across as superficial to another person. So I want to challenge you all today, sometime today, to take some time today to look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself. And then I want you to take that a step further and tell someone that maybe you haven't told that you love them. Because I think when you start by making those baby steps, then you go through the motions and you start taking the steps of becoming that faithful minister that Paul is talking about here, of Epaphras, of who he was, and certainly who we are all capable of being. So, baby steps, my friends. All right, so let's close with a prayer. Stir us to live for others, God, sharing the love your Spirit stirs in our hearts, always and forever. Amen. Thanks for joining us again today. We'll see you tomorrow.